Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Your Next 50, where we invite you to play big, to conquer those money stories and those limiting beliefs that are holding you back so that you can live the abundant life you desire. I am Sylvia.
And I am Jenny, and I am here to say welcome. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Sylvia, you do a kick-ass job of that intro, by the way. Well done.
Oh, well, thank you so much, my friend.
And you show up and you are seen by our audience. And that is our topic for today. Folks, if you're listening, are you afraid of being seen?
That's not a question that we ask ourselves too much. And I think, but it shows up everywhere. And I think when you're aware of it, you're going to start noticing all of the different places where you're not showing up at your most powerful.
Newsflash, people, you can't separate your home life from your girlfriend life, from your personal life, from your work life. It's all, and especially if you're an entrepreneur or a business person, it all blurs together. So it's manifesting in multiple parts of your life is what I'm trying to say.
It really does. It really does. And I think this doesn't befall anybody. We've all been there. We've all been there. I remember in music school when we were in music, like how many times was I afraid to be seen? So afraid to actually use my voice that, I was there to sing and that I got sick. When I remember having a small line to sing in a choral concert, and I remember just being so traumatized by it, and that I made myself sick. And I got our friend Jill Keith, who is a wonderful soprano now in England, so she was not afraid. She said, "Yeah, I'll do it, no worries." But I was like, "Yeah, But I was just didn't show up. I didn't show up for myself and show up powerfully. I learned to. But I don't know, for some reason. And I'm sure you, Jenny, what's an example for you?
Well, what comes to mind for me is all the things I didn't say at those meetings for the last 25 years. And then all the great answers I had after the meeting at home at the kitchen table when I was talking to my partner and my husband about it. That's what comes to mind, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And showing up powerfully and taking the responsibility of showing up powerfully is one of the things we're going to talk about today. Because there's a couple layers. I mean, Sylvia, as a visibility coach, what you do for your bread and butter, this has got to be like at the core of some of the work you do, correct?
Well, definitely. And I see it in the groups of women that I'm in, whether they be business owners or not. They are all telling me that they're afraid to show up. And that means a different thing for everybody. When we talk about showing up powerfully, for us, it might be doing this podcast, right? Or for someone else, it might, showing up powerfully might be around the boardroom table and saying, this is what I think of, not, I might want to think we should do this, really taking a stand, like showing up as that powerful woman that we are.
I have a perfect example. So I'm on a group chat with and I love my book club, but we're all being really nice and we're suggesting books and we can't decide on a time. And finally I say, would somebody please man up and pick a date and a book? Right? We rotate responsibility around it.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise it's always the same person. I know, Jenny. Jenny, we have our group of university friends, and often Jenny would just raise her hand to book the next weekend away, book the cottage, book the this. And at one point she just said, you know what, I just don't have the bandwidth for this. Can someone else do it? And of course, other people stepped up. But because she was always the first one, people would kind of wait those few minutes to see if she would step up. And then, but that was not being integral with what she actually wanted to do until you actually said something. And I said, yeah, I'll book the cottage, no problem.
That's a great example.
So we've talked, around the table in relationships with our friends, running a business. We need to be visible.
Right.
And if you have a business, I mean, how many people don't want to go on camera because they don't like their hair? They don't have their makeup on today. They don't know what to say. They don't think their voices matter.
So there's the physical part. Let's break this down. There's the physical part, which is the photographs, the Instagram, the I'm not a techie person, all those sort of things. How many times have you heard people say, well, I can't go on Instagram because I'm not technical enough? What a way to hide, right? Hide behind something.
So many people start their tech. And I said, I'm refusing to say that. anymore. I think I used to as well apologize for it, but I think when you're apologizing and saying it, you're just manifesting more of it. So no wonder you're not showing up and it's not working for you. But yeah.
Yeah, that's totally
So
true.
that physical side, and especially I work with women in their prime.
Yeah.
Which 40s, 50s, 60s, and our bodies don't look like the Instagrammers, or many of our bodies. If you're like me, then sometimes you look at what's online and social media and you compare yourself and say, but screw it, as you can't compare yourself. If you start comparing, you will never put yourself out there, and that's part of it. How is it manifesting in your life when we are being invisible?
Nobody has had the exact unique journey of your experience. And because it is completely your journey, you are the only person on this planet that can tell it. And when you hide, you rob the world of your gifts. Full stop. Ba-boom.
Yeah. Boom. That's a mic drop, Jenny. It is. And how many times have your clients? Yeah. Oh, well, there's so many people that are coaches. There's so many people are yoga teachers and so many people. Yeah. So what? A lot of people start things and stop. But to be successful, we have to keep going. Stay in your lane, as one of my coaches says. Stay in your lane. Just watch what you're doing. Take a step. And again, what does that look like for you? So Jenny, what does that look like for you showing up powerfully?
So, yeah. So, speaking my truth, saying what I mean, not shying away. This is such good coaching. Thank you, Sylvia. That's a great question. Just fun to say. Saying what I mean and not shying away, not sort of like soft pitching things, but saying what I truly feel. It's tied in for me around alignment and authenticity. I'm such a sensitive person. I'm always thinking about other people's feelings. And one of the things I've had to really think about is the clearer I can be. This is a Brene Brown. The clearer I can be, the kinder I am. And I remove myself from the responsibility of how it's going to land with the other person.
Yeah, we are not responsible for their actions and their reactions, are we? Because that's where that fear, that underlying, let's talk about why people are fearful. Well, when you speak your truth in a board meeting or with a client or with a spouse, you are putting yourself at risk of being judged, laughed at,
rejected,
abandoned, like in all these different ways. And these are stories that come up from when we are, little. They're really far back. So why would we want to put ourselves out there, and get out of our comfort zone? I can understand. However, there's no growth. And really it comes down to, are we as happy as we want to be? Do we have the life that we want to be, the career that we want?
So it's a trade-off, right? So you play small, you don't say what you mean, life happens to you, you accept it, and maybe you resent it or maybe you don't. I mean, everybody's different.
Yeah.
Or there's something that you see that you want that requires you to change how you do things, to be seen as a player. You asked me, how do I show up powerfully? Powerfully is such a loaded word for women. Powerfully to me sounds, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels domineering. And so powerful for me is about from the ground up. I try to imagine where my feet are and how I'm speaking from my years of experience, and I'm bringing my full body, full intention, full life experience to the table when I speak, as opposed to do this, do that, that kind of domineering dominance that I'm sorry, I associate with the word power. We have a show coming up about this. We're going to talk more about this, what the word power and how it's loaded. Here's the kicker. Showing up powerfully actually means that you let go of what other people might think about what you're saying. It doesn't matter, Sylvia. It's about you speaking it, not about how they receive it.
Yeah, and that's a big one, because how many times have you heard that, oh, well, my spouse might think this, my boss might think this of me, and I don't want them to have these ideas about who I am. Yeah. But showing up powerfully for me is also about, that word authentic that you said is really being in alignment.
Yeah.
And there is an energy and a frequency that we vibe on, like that we're
Oh, yeah.
total in flow
Mhm.
when we are showing up powerfully. And it's tapping into that feeling, however that is for you. I just know that there's an easiness and it flows when I am in alignment. And for me, that's showing up powerfully. Because let's just say it as an example, putting out a program. I have put out programs where I was not in alignment. I wasn't excited about it. Do you think they actually worked?
No,
No,
because
like,
you
no.
sabotaged them before they even launched,
Before
Sylvia.
they even started, right? So now I'm in a launch mode, you're in a launch mode, and you can feel it, and there's an energy to the writing, to the showing up, to the
Yeah.
speaking, and you're not afraid of talking about it to somebody, right?
Yeah.
It's such a different place to be in.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, that is my benchmark of being that in alignment and showing up.
So
Mm.
what's coming up for me is a Jen Sincero quote that says, "There's nothing more unstoppable than a truckload of hell yes." When you
Yeah.
when you figure out your hell yes, like hell yes, this is the thing I want to do that I believe so truly in. Whether it's reorganizing your governance, whether it's launching a program, whether it's this is the right school for
Mm.
my kid. Those of you on the call that are parents, the things we do when we know it's the right thing. For some of you, that might be making the decision to be divorced. We talked about divorce 2 weeks ago. Everything aligns for that to happen, and we honor the flow. So maybe another question is, where am I not getting flow? Where am I hiding? Where am I second guessing myself, and taking that reflection moment to go, what's going on here, and what am I afraid of? um, this is a fascinating conversation. I'm loving this.
Mm. I'm in a group right now, another group about with writers, but
Okay.
potential writers. Some of them are writers already and published writers, and it was that powerful I am statement, and she
Mm,
got everybody to write it out. I am a writer. Well,
mm,
how powerful is that? And even if you've not done the writing, there's an intention behind there. So when we're afraid of something like, will I actually go and write a story or
mm,
write something right now and go and publish it? Maybe not right now, but I am there putting an intention.
mm,
There's something drawing me to that group. I have talked about my books and our Your Next 50 book, Jenny.
mhm, mhm,
I've talked about it. So that I am statement, what is that? When we're
mhm.
showing up powerfully. I
For
am someone who leads. I am someone who talks my truth around the table. I am someone whose coaching programs resonate with a lot of people, right? It can be
I
so
am
many things.
I am someone who cares deeply about others and cares just as deeply about myself and my
Mhm.
truths, right? Those are not
Beautiful.
oxymorons, right? This is such an interesting conversation. We talked about the external, the photos and the
Hmm.
physical. We've
Yeah.
talked about the internal, the idea of showing up powerfully, how standing out was not necessarily the way we were raised. I think it's different. I hope it's different. I don't know. I certainly work hard with my children to make sure that they're comfortable standing out and being heard. You know, I think there was a whole generation of women that abdicated, whatever you need, honey, whatever you'd
Ooh.
like. Abdicate's a big word. It's like removing yourself from the driver's seat of your own car and sitting in the
Ooh.
back seat, watching your life.
Mm.
Ooh,
I really think that that's such a powerful word,
yeah,
abdicating, and gives a little bit of ugh,
I know.
but our moms' generations, the generations of women that came before us, who had limited choices when it came to work.
Yeah.
They were the first ones on the market in the 60s and 70s, and going to university and all that. So the other side of it, I look at what social media has done for being visible, and all these young people now with TikToks and
Yeah.
at the age, so little,
Yeah.
and showing up. We just will limit our screen time, but I want
I think we might have lost Sylvia. I love this idea. Now she is completely not seen. If you are watching the video, she has disappeared completely, and I am now solo on the live recording. There's so many parts of that. If you're listening and you're thinking about how you have been seen or not seen, and physically Sylvia left the screen, people, which is a really interesting
Were you still talking?
manifestation. Well, I stood there looking kind of funny for a while. I'm hoping our editors will have taken that out when we go to the podcast. But
did you hear my swear word? Did you hear me swearing?
No. But I'm happy to hear them now, because you were literally unseen.
Yes, I was unseen. I mean, how ironic is that for an episode about being seen? I don't want to put any meaning into this. Oh my gosh.
No. But for those of you on that, just a bit behind the scenes about Sylvia and I. So we record on YouTube. We go live on YouTube. We wanted to do live because we wanted to have that kind of energy to it. So if you're listening on YouTube, you probably just saw a big weird gap where Jenny smiled at the screen. And now, hopefully, if you're listening to the podcast, it sounds completely smooth because our back-end podcast organizer and editor would have cut that out. And we're back in talking about being seen with two faces on the screen. So
there you go. I'm back.
Where do we want to go next, Sylvia? Like we've talked about the external, we've talked about the internal, we've talked about this showing up powerfully. We talked about abdicating.
We also talked about, Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. You're a little delayed, but
I'm a little delayed. Let me
maybe take your screen off. Oh shit. Whoops. There you go.
I'm gonna walk around my house and get to see where the internet people. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just can't see you yet. I mean, you're frozen. Okay. So
it's not working. Is it not working, Jenny?
You're okay now. You're good now. Yeah. So
I'm live on a show, and yes, go for it. Okay. Apparently, I lost electricity.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's a reason. It's not the universe telling you that you shouldn't be seen.
We were going with what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen when you decide to show up?
You can have an electrical outlet, an emergency outlet, and you have no power, and you literally get shut down on your live show all across Facebook.
Well, that's a really good example, Jane. It doesn't happen very often. However, yes, that could be one of the worst things. But is it really the worst? I mean, I didn't die. I always say that. I didn't die.
Yeah, and you know what? We're real. We're human. Those of you listening to this podcast, and I have no idea how we're going to edit this sucker back together. But you're getting the real behind the scenes. This is what it's like. But did you notice we didn't quit? We didn't give up.
We did not quit.
We kept finding ways to connect. But from a karma perspective, we do not. So we have to play big here on this show because we're always inviting you that are listening to play big. So we can't stay safe. I'm going to say right now that we are going to publish this episode. We're going to find a way to put it together to bring value to you guys. And we're going to play big and we're going to be authentic. And you just had a lovely little back behind the scenes of Sylvia's house.
Well, it happens, right? I'm in my stairs now. The sound might not be that great, but what a great example of going with the flow when you are, lots of things can happen when you do put yourself out there. But my thing is, like, we talked, what's the worst? This isn't really that bad. Like, it really isn't. So if you are going to, speak your truth around a table, what is the worst? Unless I guess you could get fired, but it depends what you're saying. But I think when we speak in alignment and are, speaking our truth, these things won't happen. You'll come out stronger. You'll come out
Yeah.
better. If change is meant to happen, it will happen for you.
Wow.
Mm.
So the takeaway for today, as we kind of conclude this episode, a couple things are coming up for me. You had the question to the audience of what does showing up powerfully look like to you? For me, I'm learning that clothes are part of me showing up powerfully. Doing my hair. I just decided to have a second set of glasses done because I'm really blind now, and I'm going to change up my look because showing up powerfully for me is choosing what I put on when I want to connect with people. Those are some of the things I'm thinking about. How about you, Sylvia? How do you show up powerfully?
For me, it's really connecting with my communities on a regular basis. That's where I'm playing right now, and showing up in my groups, on my page, and going live. Even if I'm not all made up, it's really, I think that's how it is for me. And yes, the clothes, since our photo shoot for our, that's been a fun part of the journey as well.
Absolutely.
Now we're into fall, so I need a whole new fall.
Oh, I think
fall wardrobe.
Listen, if you need another photo shoot to get some more clothes, Sylvia, I'm all over it. And if you're listening, we did one called the photo shoots, the good, bad, and the triggers. That's an episode worth listening to. But as we show up every week for this podcast, we learn to be more comfortable. So it is an element of practice makes perfect. Malcolm Gladwell says you need 10,000 hours. So let's get to it, ladies.
Imagine had this happen like in one of our first episodes. We probably would have panicked, right? But the more you do something, the more you show up, the easier. How many times have I done something and then said, "Oh my gosh, why did I wait so long to do this? To just why? It was not that hard, right? And I figured it out. We're resourceful."
And the uncomfortable is really a lot shorter than we think it is.
Yes.
It's a shorter amount of time, right? And let's reposition uncomfortable. Uncomfortable means we're in a growth opportunity. This is something I've never done before. How cool is that? Right?
But the doing of the action item and being uncomfortable can be short, but the anxiety that you have prior to doing that is like 20 times to 100 times longer.
So true.
So let's cut that time down if we're feeling compelled to it. We've talked about this before. Moving into the resistance, those are, growth opportunities, like you said. So let's cut that time. Don't wait years and years and years to do it.
Yeah, especially to find it was a non-issue and you've wasted all that time. I mean, that's our whole theme is it's not too late, right? But start now.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Start now, get going, conquer those stories that have been holding you back from doing the things, conquer the stories that have not allowed you and your voice to shine. We're going to talk about that in an upcoming show. So I think there's a lot of lessons here. And the first one is awareness, right?
Yes.
Are you hiding was what Sylvia asked us. Are you hiding? Why are you hiding? And how can you shift to show up powerfully? Those are our questions for you today.
Yeah, so important as we move forward in these next years and next weeks. Thank you so much, Jenny. That was a great chat. And
great conversation. We're not going to tell you who's coming up next because we're working on finalizing a couple of special guests. So TB confirmed, but some exciting things coming down the pipeline for your next podcast or your next 50 podcast business empire that we are building here with the help of all of you listening in. So again, please, if this has resonated with you, please send it to a friend. Please send it to someone who you think might need to hear this message today. And as always, it's a pleasure to spend time with you each week as we craft and make our vision for our next 50s together.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week. Bye.